All right, so welcome back. We finished this morning talking with Aaron and Darin, and we brought in some new guests, Nate Frazier and Ken Huntley, COO and VP of Sports Nutrition. Super awesome to have you guys here. We're super excited about a lot of stuff. We just got off the Kaged podcast. We're talking a lot about the 27 SKUs, all new innovation, very exciting things. But I think a lot of the questions that Aaron's kind of getting on this launch is like, why work with GNC? And so I was super excited that you guys wanted to join and talk with us. And I want to take that into a couple different areas. We do want to get into Beyond Raw as well. So this is not just Kaged. But I guess I want to hand the microphone to Aaron and ask why choose GNC and take it from there, because we've had a couple rough years in retail and sports nutrition as a whole. And I want to talk about how GNC's gotten here, where we're going from there, and go from there.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Ben. Guys, great to sit here and chat with you. So we actually touched on this earlier on our podcast. Why GNC? It was a question we got actually asked multiple times today. Why are you going so big with GNC? All this great stuff. And it all started with our community. Like, we're a community-based model. And as a brand, we listen to our audience, particularly the audience that's been integrating with the brand over the last, let's call it 18 months. Now, Kaged has been around for about 7 years, not a new brand, but over the last 18 months, we really started to hockey stick and really started to scale. And a lot of that is because we went through a rebrand and where we kind of went beyond that muscle. We used to be Kaged Muscle, now we're Kaged. And as we kind of entered into this like new tier of brand identity, one of the things that we wanted to do is kind of roadmap, where is that innovation funnel coming from? And like, who's the best partner, right? And most people know my background. I come from GNC. I've worked with some brands that partner with GNC closely, but there's no retailer that does it better and no retailer that has a stickier audience than GNC. And so we look at the model that you guys have built and we look at the LTV we own on the digital side, and it kind of like lined up for this perfect partnership opportunity. So when you ask, why GNC, and same thing we talked about in there, is like, that's really the why behind what we're doing. We're super excited about it.
So tell us a little bit about recently, like, what is the trajectory of GNC? What have you been focusing on?
And Aaron's, he's dead on at this point. I think if you think about what has happened in sports nutrition, and in just let's talk about it in generality over the last few years. So we went into this really scary period in 2020. A lot of questions, a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, the world was shut down. A lot of people they couldn't even physically come into our locations and get their questions answered. As that started to subside a little bit and people got more bold, got more back into their workout routine, as gyms reopened, we saw this sort of resurgence, but there just wasn't a lot of innovation happening, not to the scale that was really out there across the United States and in some cases sort of globally, because every country was dealing with things differently, ingredient issues, and then we ran into this sort of global supply chain meltdown that started with raw materials, but then it expanded to shipping and production and manpower. And so you had this sort of wild period in between, Ben, where we're 2021, a lot of people wanted to bring newness to the market. They wanted to bring innovation, but we were sort of stuck, and maybe it was just flavor, or maybe it was just some sort of branding outside of that, because we were so hampered because the supply chain was so, it had all this unnecessary pressure that was put on it because of costing and manpower and everything else that went into it too. And as that started to relax and people got really confident that they could deliver in a way that they wanted to, they could ship out product the way they wanted to, and production got back online, then we started to see the hockey stick start again. Then the whole world got smacked last summer by these crazy inflationary pressures. Right? We're like, okay, great. We can stock the shelves again. We can deliver to the consumer. We can feel really good about it. And then this world took off in this direction too. And so as that started to cool a little bit, I think we've all gotten a little more excited about, okay, what does the future hold for sports nutrition? Like, what do we need to deliver to the consumer that we've been missing a lot of, really over the last few years? And people are hungry for it, right? We've seen this crazy cycle around fitness and around, people working out at home and then getting back, and sort of community opportunity to get out there too. And so a lot of what we've been working on with our merchant team is, how can we bring things out that are best in class? How can we bring things that are really innovative back to the consumer? And we've done a lot of work on our platforms too. We've got 5 really, really powerhouse sort of arms in which we deliver to the consumer. And it starts in our stores. We're here this week really celebrating our franchisees here really globally out there. But we have access through GNC.com, through the corporate locations. We've got a massive wholesale presence out there as well. And we've been able to stand up a lot of things just to make it really convenient for the consumer during this really crazy sort of transactional period. And it started with expansions of our subscription program, or things that we did from an omni-channel standpoint that may be invisible to the consumer, but it gets it to them faster. It gets them at a really value price, and that they can feel really good about what they're putting in their bodies. And so, partnering with Kaged is clearly the next iteration of that. We want to bring innovative ingredients. We want to bring sort of this exciting, change back to people's workouts and help them achieve their goals too. And so, for our mantra is and always has been live well. That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And if they've got a goal of, I want to have a great workout, or I want to have a great pump, or I want to have this sort of focus agent out there, we're here to deliver that to them. And we're getting ready to come up on our 90th birthday. We're going to be here for the next 90 years. And we've used this as an opportunity to clean that up and make sure that consumer experience is really as rich as it could possibly be.
Sure. So we don't just speak to consumers. We also speak to brands and intra-industry folk. And the strategy around GNC has evolved over the years. What kind of selling culture are you guys cultivating? What kind of things are your stores focused on with promotional money out the window?
Sure.
And that's a dirty conversation. I don't want to get
No, it's all good. I'm happy to have that
conversation about what is the focus? Where are you guys going with this? And what is your mindset with selling culture?
So I'll give you sort of three big buckets here. And this is probably a good way to at least have this conversation with the other brands too. So we had gotten into a place that was very heavy sports and diet focused. And so promotional money had become this thing that was a way to supplement our coach's income. And it started a really sort of honest and sort of genuine place. But sometimes good things get sort of out of whack, and we got this place where it was really distracting. It was sort of confusing to the consumer that was coming into our store, and confusing to our associates too. Maybe 1 month it was on PM, the next month it wasn't. And that sort of creates a really strange buying cycle. And so one of the things that we were really sort of conscious of as we got out there is if we're spending all this time, effort, and energy to improve the business, improve the navigation in the store, and improve the storytelling in the store, and partner with the right brands out there, we want them to get credit for the work that they're doing. If somebody comes in and they want to buy Kaged, I'm going to take them to Kaged. I'm going to tell them about the features and benefits, and I'm going to make sure that they're getting the right messages as they come out of there. And so we really re-engineered how we reward our associates, and it's really off of, if the store succeeds, they succeed. If they beat their sales plan out there, we give them a flat payout, and then they get a piece of the action, everything north of that. And it kind of builds this sort of camaraderie and teamwork in a lot of ways too, because in order to win, everybody has to hit this metric. It wasn't me versus Ben or me versus Aaron, or I wasn't mad because you beat me to that PM. And it creates sort of a toxic selling culture in a lot of ways too. And so if you think about that, it was really important. Early last year, we went through this really crazy cycle of, there's this narrative in the media around the Great Resignation, and some of that was real out there too. And we wanted to make sure that we could hand out a sort of a reward and incentive system that was not just fair to our coaches, but also fair to the brands that we partnered with out there, and that everyone was working off the playing field. Everyone had that right to win, and everybody was able to get to a place where they could say, I did this on my own merit. If you can succeed in that sort of format with that sort of sales drive behind it, you can succeed anywhere. And then the second thing I'll really mention that's probably important for both sides, for the consumer and for the brands, we went to a full stripped down relaunch of how we train, educate, and sort of get our associates sort of bought into the brands that we're driving in there. We had a full relaunch of our educational system. It's called GNC University. It's fully gamified. We brought in a lot of outside education consultants to understand how sort of our constituency of associate retains that information, what they're comfortable with the sales architecture out there, and the system is incredible. It's really fun. It's based off of 30-day chunks to make sure that we can hire somebody and that they're really representing your brand in a way that you're comfortable with as well. And so super proud of it. It's best in class with how we're training folks, and it's really been, in all honesty, it's a differentiator for us because you're not going to get that experience really anywhere else, in all honesty. And it's something that it's sort of a flagship, training module for us.
I think education in this industry, it's special to me. It's important to me because I don't think there's anyone else that just does it to do it. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I think the biggest compliment I got this week while being here was the amount of franchisees who were like, I use your videos to understand my products better. Right. And that's why the franchise show has a special place for me, is because I worked in store at a corporate store, but there's no ownership over that. Right. It's kind of high turnover in those stores. It's
for sure. It's retail. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Younger folk, and they don't have any piece of that action. But the people here not all of them are fitness professionals, but they care a lot.
That's right.
It's their business, and you find a lot of passion here. And so the education initiative is really exciting. I'm super excited to be involved with you guys because no one else does this. I mean, in especially brick and mortar, mom and pop shops, that they're forced to because they have to understand. But there's not a lot of industries where you have to understand the product so much. I mean, this is going in people's bodies.
Sure, that's right. That's exactly right.
You're not selling, some sort of ornament for your house that shows something pretty. This is going in your body. It's chemically affecting you. It could change things for a lot of people. And for a long time, people were kind of uneducated in the stores in general.
It's an interesting point you bring up because you've got so much passion around what makes us different. And that's it's an incredible problem to solve. And it's not, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, if someone wants that education, if they want something that's really tangible that they can share with the consumer because they care about health and wellness, or they care about their community, they care about people that they're partnering with, like those are things that we can latch onto and provide just really a next level of service out there. And if you read through like our Net Promoter Scores or the things that have come back over the last year, you can see clearly that's affecting the consumers when they're in there today. They feel that difference. They feel that sort of knowledge base, and they feel that sort of uplift with the things we've been able to deliver. And to your point, our industry is special in that way. Like, there's a lot of industries. There's not people sitting at home on a Friday night and reading blogs about, widgets or beds or shirts, things like that. They're on PricePlow, right? They're on these sort of industry places where they're like, this is great. I want to supplement this myself. And having that sort of motivation, that's really the bread and butter for us.
Our consumers have changed a lot. I mean, especially in all of our tenure in this industry, the level of education and the level of curiosity to understand has exploded.
No doubt.
So with all that in mind, I want to ask Ken, you're kind of the gatekeeper who gets into this. I mean, it's a very unique position to be in. What are you looking for? How have things changed for you and what you're looking for in a partner?
Yeah. First and foremost, it's got to be different. You know what I mean? We pride ourselves on not being a Me Too. We really do focus on a curated assortment, making sure that we've got the best things that our consumers are asking for and looking for, honestly. And we don't want to have everything that's out there and available just for the sake of having it. So I think it's really, really important that when we're looking at building an assortment, that we're doing it with purpose, with, the consumer top of mind always, and making sure that, at the end of the day, the things that are on the shelf are the things that are ultimately what people want and need. We see a lot of products. There's you guys can imagine, you know what I mean? And there are so many of them. For everyone that gets through, there's probably 10 that don't. Yeah. And so, it's really a specialized process that we take a lot of pride in, quite honestly, for all the reasons that we mentioned. We want to make sure, again, that point of differentiation for us is why we've been around almost 90 years.
Right.
And so it's very easy for a brand to come in with a Me Too product or something like that and, think, that it makes sense at GNC. And, 9 times out of 10, like I said, that is just not the case because we don't want to be Me Too. And we really pride ourselves and do everything in our power to make sure that everything that's on that shelf has a purpose.
We talk a lot about innovation. Like, it's kind of like a 4-letter word, in my opinion. It means so many things, right?
It does. It means a lot. It means a lot to a lot of different people, too.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you guys have everything from Glaxon, who literally is finding, bull testicle extracts from Middle Asia, right? To, ghosts, because just the experience is vastly changed, right? There's every step of, what we call innovation all over is at GNC. But your own brand, Beyond Raw.
Yeah.
Which, when we have our talks, I was asked to treat it as a brand, not as a private label, but it is a GNC brand.
Yep.
And especially there, we see new ingredients, we see new experiences, we see collaborations. How's that going for you guys? How long has that been a thing? I feel like you guys have been kind of leading in a lot of ways in innovation, especially as a private label. How has that changed the way that you look at all of this?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about GNC, which I don't think people have a lot of either knowledge about or appreciation for, is how much effort we put into not only product design, but R&D and product development in general. We have an enormous team that spends their entire days looking for those ingredients, looking for ways to formulate products in new and exciting ways. And that is really what Beyond Raw is all about. So since the brand has really kind of come into focus with LIT being kind of that preeminent pre-workout within the brand, we've continued to, innovate, update to the formulas, flavor extensions, flavor partnerships, things like that. as you guys all are very well aware of, this space thrives on newness. And so you've got to have a reason to be in the conversation. And, Beyond Raw in particular is one of those brands where we've always got something to talk about. And not just for the sake of having something to talk about, it's actually things people want. It's very efficacious formulas and products. And so for us, that really is kind of where we really get in and dig deep into, the ingredients, the formulations, and making sure we're delivering top tier products.
Yeah, I don't think enough people have enough of a appreciation for your science team.
Yeah.
The robustness of the team, and how much effort goes into not just innovation, but also protection.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing that we talk about. And, over the years, there's a hardcore part of this community that is, hardcore driven on, results.
Right.
And
Right.
really dialing it. And there has been this, I would say, deconnotation to GNC because you guys play it safe. But in this industry where there are literal brands that are made in bathtubs, there's a sense of safety with GNC. There is a sense of legitimacy and verification to it. And I kind of want to ask you guys, with all that being said, and with this huge reset that's really coming to GNC, what do you want the industry to see with GNC? What is your message to everyone that is asking why GNC?
For sure.
Or is, I want to give you guys the floor.
I can share a couple of things, Ken, if that's okay before we get in. So I think first and foremost, you hit the nail on the head. Part of this is the trust that we've built. It matters. And I've been a lifelong GNC consumer way before I ever worked here. And I will be for the rest of my life because we can walk through these stages with people. We can walk through the seasons of their life with them in a way that makes a lot of sense. And if you are just getting into fitness or you're a high school kid that just wants a pure, clean protein, we are a quality source. And I can say that de facto. I know where the raw materials come from. And I know that there are certain things out there that I would not feed my kids. Some big names out there, too, that we will not touch out there because the raw materials are inferior. If you think about hardcore on the backside of that, there may be formulations that they're not interested in. But if you want to talk about Beyond Raw specifically, in this age of personalization, look no further than Chem Labs. Everything we're doing in Chem Labs is clean. It's AAA grade out there. It may be the simplest formulation that somebody can use and personalize to their regimen out there as well. And then, to your point, there are certain things that we're doing that are much more aggressive. That's why the Glaxon partnership was important to us. That's why we're pushing the envelope with a lot of a lot of the new partners we're bringing. That's why we're expanding things with companies like Kaged, because there are things that maybe they want to go out there and grab a different consumer than we're grabbing out there, or do something that's a little more aggressive, and we're here to support that and be the platform or a launch pad for some cases out there too. And so we want to make sure that we are delivering toward goal, understanding that everybody has different motivation as they get out there, but we're doing a lot in between to fill those gaps out there too.
When I left GNC, Beyond Raw was white and yellow.
Yep, sure. Yeah.
What was the pre-workout name back then? And I can't remember the Ravage.
Ravage, okay.
And back then, flavors were not good.
Yeah.
And we were pushing ingredients, and the flavors were getting worse with those ingredients.
Sure.
But there was no point where Beyond Raw was letting off the gas.
Right.
And there were points where lit is actually really well consumed by young folk, TikTok, Instagram.
No doubt it is. Yeah.
Who don't know that it's a GNC brand. That was really
right. Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
right.
that was really cool.
And it still happens today. Yeah. That's right.
There is legitimately a safety concern in a lot of these parts of the industry.
For sure.
Young, impressionable teens, early adults that could be affected by these things, right? And it becomes a social concept.
It does.
There were years ago. I love your old guys, Cellucor, but we created this fad of 3-4 scoops of free workout because it was possible. And now we're at a point where you take one scoop of lit and it's strong.
Sure.
You guys have encouraged large scoop pre-workouts, those ultra premium.
Yeah, heavy dosed.
Yeah.
Right ingredients. That's right.
There's multiple people on the floor today with 400 milligram caffeine scoops.
Right.
Totally safe.
Right.
And we know that it's tested in quality here.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I wanted to bring all that up because there's a lot, like you were saying, there's a lot of big names that I wouldn't recommend to my
No,
kids.
yeah, same. Yeah.
And I sometimes I feel like a fear mongering for bringing it up, but I think it's important conversation that there is an issue at the end of this. There is some sort of health problem that if they continue down that road, like there could be problems. And so shopping with someone like GNC, you can trust.
Yeah, quality matters, ingredient matters, quality of ingredient matters. So you put those three things together, all of a sudden, we're in this position where we can come from a place of authority, and no matter what their goal is. And to your point, in some cases, it may be a collegiate athlete that wants to push to the end of the as far as they can, but they have a banned substance list they've got to bounce off of. And again, there's multiple iterations of that too. We're going to service that person the same we would, somebody in the hardcore space or somebody that's just getting started in their fitness journey.
And I think probably the biggest change that I've seen outside of the Beyond Raw growth is you brought up at that point in time, there was a huge emphasis on diet and sport.
Mm-hmm.
I see you guys talking about longevity, hydration. I mean, multi-packs were always obviously a big part of your selling point. Yes. There's a holistic approach to this whole concept now. And it's funny because with that focus on sport and diet, we saw a lot of issues in society and culture where people were so focused on that, they forgot about the rest of their body.
Right, sure.
So, any closing thoughts with GNC, things going on, things to look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that I would just reiterate, you talk about the why so much. We, in a lot of ways, help establish this industry. We've launched a lot of brands. We've brought new categories of business to the market. And again, it comes with that almost 90 years of history that I don't think a lot of people either understand or know, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, it's how we keep raising the bar in the space and doing things like the partnership that we're doing with Kaged. That line is going to be phenomenal. Super excited about it. But we take that approach and that angle with everything that we do across the board. So we've got a very high bar that we've set for ourselves, and we continue to push it forward through innovation, through partnerships. And I just think it's really critical to making sure, to Nate's point, we've got the next 90 years, ahead of us.
Cool. Well, we'll be out in Pittsburgh in 2 months, I think. And I think I want to do a deeper dive. I want to talk about the 90 years. I want to talk about where you came from, where we're going. We'll go deeper when we're at headquarters. But thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks you guys.
Yeah,
Aaron, thanks.
guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you.